a little break to do whatever. We're having some issues with this. Don't get mad at us. We're new. So like we were saying, we want to be more involved with the law enforcement community, veterans, first responders, and we want to make sure we do some good things. So we're using these platforms to make sure we get out there and help. If you know of any ways we can spread this message, get a hold of us and we'll put it out there for you.
Right. Or if you just need somebody to talk to, reach out to us. Again, just talking sometimes helps immensely. I know it does for me.
For sure. Well, so you're saying you got your balls chopped off.
I did.
That's pretty cool.
Half the man I used to be.
Yeah. So what would you say one of the biggest problems is facing the law enforcement community besides the PTSD issue?
Right.
Oh.
One of the big things is, and you and I have talked about it, we talked about it on the first attempt at podcasting, and again, we had some technical difficulties, but just to kind of reiterate to you kind of what I think are some of the big shortcomings and holes in the system is that, kind of unlike the military, there is no VA, and so you have law enforcement officers who have went through 30 years of seeing trauma that there's nothing there for them. They don't have a lot of programs out there that really deal with that. I mean, obviously, talking with a counselor helps and stuff like that, but it's always, I think, in my opinion, it's always better to talk to somebody that's been in that profession, that has experienced those things. I think that can be said for a lot of things, but just speaking with somebody that kind of knows where you're coming from, I think is a little bit better.
So, like, when you retire from law enforcement, because I still got quite a ways to go, what do they do insurance-wise?
Well, it's like anybody else with
At
a job.
any job?
At any job, you have your COBRA. Once you have your final day, you have your COBRA. You can keep that for 3 months, and then, then you've got to find your own insurance plan,
Which is expensive.
right? And and I kind of want to go back a little bit to prior to retirement. So I've worked for several agencies in my career. And one of the biggest problems that I found, like when I would go to counseling specifically, and at least it would be, from where I worked, the city, the insurance plan that we had, is that you could go to counseling, but you only had 5 sessions that you could cover the same topic. And so when you were done talking about
It's like an
that
EAP.
topic, it's an EAP, Employee Assistance Program is what that means, EAP. And so, it's really difficult because you really couldn't even get started within those first 5 sessions.
Yeah.
You're getting to know the counselor, they're getting to know you, you're kind of warming up to those conversations, and you really start getting to the brass tacks of it all, and then you can't, they can't
And then
bill the
now
insurance.
you owe me money.
Now you owe me money, and those sessions are typically $100 an hour at least.
Yeah. I know I've used the EAP program at work. Same thing. It's like 5 sessions. Then you're on your own. And like you said, it's expensive. The one goal that I have with doing all this, and I know you're on board too, is getting something for everybody who steps out of law enforcement, or at least pushing something, or even in our state, that's kind of like the VA has adopted for our first responders. Law enforcement, even paramedics see some gruesome stuff on the job.
Firefighters,
that gets to them. So if there's anybody out there who can, tell us how to get this started, whether we need to get signatures or whatever, let us know.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing some research too to try to figure all of that out, and I'm assuming contacting our congressmen, men and women, probably be a good way to start.
Yep.
I've been watching some other podcasts recently. Recently I just watched the Joe Rogan podcast where he was talking with Donald Trump, and one of the things that actually Donald Trump brought up was that very topic, the topic we're talking about, how there's nothing for our law enforcement officers. Going through a 25-30 year career of seeing extreme trauma, traumatic things, the worst, things that you can see that most people will go their entire life and not see, And so there definitely needs to be something out there to help. You know, I think people oftentimes, you know, you'll see a law enforcement officer, you know, do something really stupid on the job, get themselves in trouble. I believe personally that a lot of that has to do with PTSD and some of the trauma that's not being dealt with.
Yeah, you see it for 30 years straight, and it's going to take a toll on you, and we need more. I don't know if we necessarily need more mental health officials or QMHPs, whatever you want to call them, but we do need more that are certified for law enforcement.
Well, I do know, you know, when I had been previously looking for my own counselors, is, you know, there actually is a shortage that I found, at least in our local area, where, you know, they're just not taking on my patients. I think that can be said across the entire medical field, but that is also an issue, and I'm not sure what the solution to that is, but again, I think that's our hope, is that we can come up with some ideas, you know, to help in any way that we can. Like I said, if that just means having a conversation, I think that's what we do.
Yep. There was another thing that was recently brought up for law enforcement, like nonprofits. I know a lot of them are geared more towards veterans and stuff, which they should be. But I wish there were more out there that were geared towards, because I went to, it's called Mighty Oaks Warrior Program. It's a good program. But the only thing that, you know, that I don't want to say like it was bad or anything, but it's a religious one, and I wasn't really expecting that, because I grew up Catholic, but I'm not that religious. Great program, and I know they, you know, will help first responders out sometimes, so it's a good one to look into, but I wish we had more like that, because it really helped me out. I learned how to cope. I learned how to talk, better coping mechanisms. And also they have, you know, people you can reach out to even after you leave, who will still talk you through everything. So if you know of any maybe that we haven't seen, give us a shout out. We'll put a shout out up on here, because I think it's very important that you have an outlet. So like, work in law enforcement, you get off work, and a lot of people will bring that home with them. You've had a bad day, you've been cussed at, screamed at, whatever, or you've seen something horrible. What do you do when you go home? I mean, what's the best way to, what's the word I'm looking for? The best way to decompress.
Yeah. What's the worst thing that you've seen at work that you brought home? That you really didn't have a good mechanism, and you didn't deal with it prior to getting home?
You know, probably one of the things that set me off the most was just one of those days where, like, you're being talked down to, like, all day long. Like, I've seen the bloody stuff. I've seen people fighting. I've seen, you know, we've had deaths and stuff. But one of the biggest thing is just being nitpicked all day and bringing it home. And then you just want to snap, like, on your partner or somebody.
If they say the wrong thing.
If they say the wrong thing.
And, yeah.
So I don't really know. I really don't know how I handled it at that time. I thought it was good, but I was pulled aside by my partner later, and they said, "You're snapping on us like we work with you or something, or like we're one of yours." But
right. And I think a lot of that, like I said, that goes back to, you know, the trauma that you experience. I mean, you're just in that negative environment all day, so you start becoming negative, and you know, again, that's just one small piece of the puzzle. You know, just, you know, getting agitated really quickly, you know, that's really a big indicator for me that you're really starting to start having issues, at least in that career field. You know, I saw a lot of guys going, you know, through the first 5-6 years of their career loving it, and this is the best thing in the world. Every little thing set them off getting agitated.
Yep, and I've seen that too, for sure. Oh yeah. They say it's within your first 5 years, you know, whether you can handle that career or not.
Right. But, you know, I think other than talking about all the serious stuff, which is, like I said, that's our priority and stuff like that. You know, I think we're still going to also be touching on a bunch of different topics and stuff like that.
We'll be touching on, you know, like for veterans, like, hey, did you know you could get this benefit? Did you know that you could, you know, get your tax or your property taxes lowered in almost every state? Did you know that law enforcement gets these deals, these discounts, or whatever? Or what is that beeping?
I don't know.
Is it my phone?
Is somebody
sorry if that's our phone.
us? Hey, oh wait,
We had one.
we had one.
Yeah.
That was probably just Jason.
Yeah. He's like, never mind.
I just saw those idiots.
Does it show the live on that?
I don't think so, because I'm not logged in.
What is that?
Hey.
You don't want to know what's on his phone.
Pictures of my butthole.
Yeah. Hairy butthole. Oh, that reminds me of a story. You want to hear about it?
I do.
Okay, so it was the other day. I was at the bank, and one of the homeless people walked in, and he started singing about hairy buttholes. He's all, hairy buttholes, hairy buttholes, hairy buttholes. And of course, they immediately kick him out and stuff.
Yeah.
I could see some things wrong with that, but I could see some good things come from it too. Like,
Yeah.
At least, you know, if they're hairy, they're probably of age, right?
It's stuff like that I love. Like, how do you not laugh at something like that just happening when you know, you can't even get mad at it.
Who does that at the bank though?
I mean, us probably.
Yeah. Oh, geez. So being a cop, you know, all those years, what's one of the, you know, coolest things you remember being on the job?
I mean, there was a lot of cool stuff, but I mean, it's hard to come up with one, but I'll talk about, you know, a friend of mine that I have now. I actually met him. Oh, wait, is Jason back?
Jason, are you back?
Are you back?
He
Jason?
might be.
Yeah. But doing my job, I met a guy by the name of Josh who was actually, you know, kind of sleeping under a bridge, was having substance abuse issues, and you know, I started kind of talking with him. You know, I helped him out with some food. I bought him a sleeping bag. I think we got him a tent, and so you know, started helping him out that way. He kind of started helping me out with the job. I think Jason's back again. But anyway, long and short of it is, you know, this guy was really down on his luck. I mean, had a bad addiction problem, and you know, we actually got him kind of started going down the road of recovery. You know, I was helping him out with that. You know, he ultimately got into some trouble and ended up in prison for a short stint. You know, but did some programs, wanted to change. You know, he would call me from prison. I'd, you know, chat with him and all of that stuff. And at the end of the day, ultimately he got clean. You know, got some housing, has been working a full-time job, just doing fantastic for himself, and him and I are friends to this day. We actually spoke at my wedding.
As a matter of fact, I was there at his wedding when
Video to come.
Yeah. Oh, you're gonna love it. He spoke so highly of David, and I had no clue that, you know, all that had transpired between those two, and I was shocked because coming from the world I come from, you don't talk to people that are offenders. You know, you just don't.
Right.
Like, that's just the way it is. So to know that you changed that man's life so much, because I talked to him after it, and
Yeah.
he loves you and thanks you so much for it. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, you know, I think, you know, it is frowned upon in the law enforcement community to communicate, you know, on another level. But, you know, we're also there to help people. So, you know, I think that needs to be first and foremost, and I think unfortunately that gets lost in translation nowadays.
It does, especially on the news. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of people out there who just, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys, or vice versa, even.
Right.
You know, It is what it is.
You know, I mean, you know, and there are other people that, you know, that I hear from, you know, every year. You know, I really tried to go out of my way to help those people in need, and that was always important to me when I was doing the job.
Yeah.
You know, I try to treat people like people.
Yep. There's there's something to be said for that, because you treat people like people. It's humanizing them, because for far too long, people get treated like, what's the word I'm looking for? That's PC.
Screw that.
Yes. Fuck that. No, but seriously, I mean, that story, like, I was like, we need to have that guy on here. We need to talk to him. So hopefully that's something we can do.
Well, we can. I already talked with him about it, and he actually was pretty excited to come on and tell his story and talk about it. And, you know, I don't want to go too much more into detail, you know, kind of about his history. I'd rather hear it from him and let him tell that story. It's his to tell.
But, I mean, if you want to come on, hit us up. Just leave something in the comments, or my email is also associated with the channel, so you can hit me up on there if you want to be a little more private. Let me know you want to come on and talk about your story, whether you're a law enforcement officer, or how someone's changed your life, or you were in the military. Especially, you know, stories that, you know, you want people to hear, that you want to get out there. So, I was going to ask you something. Oh, yeah. I already asked you this on the last podcast that didn't come out. But when you were in the academy and you got done, what was it like, you know, finally getting there and, you know, getting with your FTO and doing your first job rotation?
So it was exciting. You know, I had actually, at my first agency, I had been a reserve officer there for about 1.5 years, and it was a small agency. And so, you know, the way that I actually got my start there is I had applied to become a reserve police officer. Well, I ended up getting contacted by a corporal, you know, patrol officer there, and they had actually devised a plan to start having an undercover officer buy drugs from these people selling meth, coke, and heroin.
Oh, wow.
And marijuana.
Yeah.
And so they asked me if I wanted to work undercover. So that's actually how I got my start. And so for the first 8 months of my career, I was a reserve officer there.
Undercover
but
work?
I was doing undercover work.
So they're like, okay, we can get this guy to do our undercover work for free. Let's bring him in.
It was actually a paid position.
Was it really?
It was
as a reserve?
As a reserve, yeah. You know, and that was in 2001.
Yeah.
And so, you know, back then I was doing that. It was $20 an hour.
Yeah.
You know, which back then was
a lot of money.
wasn't too bad for
Yeah.
a young guy, for a 21-year-old.
But still, what a way to start. That's
Right.
awesome.
It was amazing. It really opened my eyes to a lot of stuff. And I think it gave me a little bit of an extra understanding and push, because, you know, that's not a world that I was even remotely familiar with.
Yeah.
You know, until I did that.
That'd be tough.
But after that was all said and done, after that 8 months went by, I started working as a reserve officer. I was coming out right with my field training officer. Finally gained solo status, which meant, you know, I could go patrol the streets. And they actually had me work some shifts, you know, to kind of make up for manpower and stuff like that.
Oh,
and
wow.
So
they
know,
had full confidence in you.
yeah, at that point,
Yeah.
maybe not full confidence, but
Yeah.
but ultimately I ended up applying for a full-time position when that came open, and I got hired in full-time in 2003. And so, you know, I pretty much, it didn't take me very long because I was already used to the system.
Mhm.
You know, they still put me with a field training officer to make sure everything was up to par, you know, and I checked all the boxes, and then I was given the keys to the car and told to go have fun. So, you know, that's what I did for the next couple decades.
Wow. That's more than I got when I got into corrections, because, you know, you're with your FTO, but then they send you to a spot to where you're going to work,
Yeah.
you know, one of the units or something, and that's pretty much what I did for the next 6 months.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, you hate it at first, but then you realize that's the meat and potatoes. Like,
Yeah.
you learn everything there, you learn everyone. And then in the military,
Absolutely.
of course, it was off to boot camp, then off to Marine combat training, and then off to, you know, my MOS, you know, duty station. So that took like 3 months in boot camp, 20 to 30 days in MCT. I don't really remember.
Right.
And then, you know, MOS school was like 3 months, and then you made it to the fleet. And then when you were leaving for the fleet, you thought you're this badass, but when you get there, you realize you're not.
You're not.
Yeah.
And you're gonna have some cool stories for us, military stories. So we're gonna have some law enforcement stories, some military stories, some just personal stupid stories.
Yeah.
Because we kind of act like a jackass when we're together.
Just like talking about your balls.
Yeah.
He had a vasectomy if you didn't catch the first part. Yeah. What was the... I know I had something else that I wanted to say, but fuck. These Diet Cokes are hitting me.
Well, we're not sure how often we're going to be doing this, but
We're going to try to shoot for at least 2 times a month. You can hit us up on every platform, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. If you can't find us on anything, you hit us up on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe.
thanks to our one viewer, Jason.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. And if you're not Jason, thank you. But this will be on there later. I'll be sure to share it. But hit us up with your stories. Let us know if you want to come onto the podcast, and let us know if you know of a way you can help out veterans and first responders, and we can share it, get it out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd appreciate all the help that we can get. So
Especially you other vets out there, make sure you go out there and get your benefits. 70% of, from the last study I read online, who knows if it's true or not, 70% of veterans are not getting their compensation. So make sure you go out and get your compensation. I know there's a lot of people who are saying, like, I didn't do anything. If you were hurt in the military, you were hurt in the military, regardless of what you were doing. Make sure you get out there and get those benefits and take advantage of them. They're there for a reason. There's people who sit in Congress, and after they get done, they get paid for the rest of their life. Probably people who don't even deserve it. Don't cancel us. But make sure you get out there, check out your VA benefits, and that's going to be my goal with every podcast. I'm going to have one new benefit, or at least, a couple, if not. But make sure you get out there.
Yep, absolutely.
Any questions for us, put them in the comments or email us, and we will read them on air. And we'll let you know live, what we think.
All right. I think that's it.
All right. Peace. Oh, yeah. See this face?
Who is the second viewer?